thing about being in this position is that we can react to some of the things that the other panels have said. I was especially taken by Eric, who said that publishers are freaking out. I just want to let everybody know, in fact, they are. I am freaking out even as we speak. So if you're wondering, if you see bizarre behavior, that's why. Let's quickly go down the line, and Mike, I'll start with you.
Oh, sure. Mike Baker, the co-founder and CEO of DataXu. We are a demand-side platform, so our customers are all the big, Fortune 100 brands. This panel is about multi-screen. We sell software, so we don't sell media. We sell our software, and buyers buy the media through our software. That's probably how we're different than maybe some of the other panelists, but they use it for mobile and video, interstitial video, display, and social media.
I'm Michael Collins. I'm the CEO of Adelphic. We are a mobile demand-side platform and audience solution. We sell our product to agencies, trading desks, brands who are looking to market direct. Where we've placed a lot of our focus is being able to solve the audience problem and the user identification problem in mobile, so we can develop deeper profiles, greater knowledge in our users, and of course then be able to track them cross-channel, so we can see where the value, so we can attribute the interactions in mobile across multiple screens wherever the user chooses to interact.
All right.
Traasdahl, I'm the founder and CEO of Tapad. So primarily work with advertisers, about 160 of the largest brands in the US on our platform that doing what we call unified multi-screen or unified cross-platform, which means that you're able to have a real unified view on all these consumers out there. So you do that for media and also for attribution. So somebody has seen an ad on a phone, but they actually took an action on the computer. So that's the solution we're providing to advertisers, to publishers, and also to data companies, data management platforms, trading desks, and everybody in the ecosystem.
Elizabeth.
My name is Liz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of MIDIArmor. We've solved the problem of connecting consumer activity across devices and points of sale, actually, which is slightly differently from others. We do sell media, and it's based on integrated customer records, which represent anything a customer has done at any point of sale or any device with an advertiser. For me, the coolest thing is that we can actually tell advertisers after somebody sees an ad that how many dollars are walking into a store and transacting.
All right, so just to get us started, I'm going to throw out a little bit of a softball. Cross-platform, right? So why should we care? What's wrong with working in silos? What makes working across platforms so valuable to a marketer?
I can take that. I think it's been the challenge of advertising from day one has been that I know that 50% of my ads work. I just don't know what 50%. And being able to unify this across multiple devices so that you have this one view of a consumer and everything that they're doing on multiple devices is something that has huge value for an advertiser. From a measurement perspective, you can see every impression across all screens until they took the desired action at the end. You can use all that information to also optimize your media across multiple devices. So I think it's the holy grail of advertising is really to be able to do this in a unified way and get away from the silos.
I would agree. Consumers aren't single channel. A consumer won't wake up in the morning and say, today I'm a mobile consumer, tomorrow an online consumer. Consumers are multi-channel. Brands, by very definition, need to be multi-channel. So to get to the point where you really can't engage an audience and a full set of behaviors, being able to track and address and engage with that user across channels is just a very natural evolution of the media space.
So, Michael, you said something there I want to pick up on. Consumers are multi-channel, and I think that's right. I mean, there isn't anybody in this room who hasn't probably engaged in 2 or 3 screens within the past hour, if not past day. And we, as an old line publisher, look at this a lot. We put our content down on a lot of different screens. And what's interesting is the research shows that a multi-platform campaign is more effective than a single platform campaign. Right. That there's something sort of magical that happens when you reach consumers with the relatively same or similar advertising messages for a single campaign across different screens and different points of engagement, that 1 + 1 actually adds up to 3. But Ari, so I think you win the award for the first person to mention the old John Wanamaker line, half of my advertising is wasted, which happens at every conference, so congratulations.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a prize?
But we'll talk, you only get half the prize. But But I think I wonder if, let me throw this out to the panel. I wonder if there's a danger in looking at the world that way. I once heard the CEO of one of the large agency holding companies say, if the first time you see, he used BMW, if the first time you see a BMW ad is when you're 35 years old and have money to actually buy a BMW, I have failed. And I wonder if the more hyper-targeted we get, the more data-driven our decisions are, the more we risk not being able to build customers who aren't ready yet. How do we prevent that from happening?
Well, I think so. Firstly, from a cross-platform perspective, if you look at, just backing up what you said earlier in terms of consumers, we had a stat that showed that consumers are switching between screens 27 times an hour. And a lot of these younger that you want to get into a BMW earlier, they're going to be on mobile devices, they're going to be on tablets, and they're going to be on all these other devices, they're going to be in front of television, they're going to be multitasking throughout their entire day. So with that type of scenario, you want to be able to reach them in this unified way as early as absolutely possible. And as when you know that they are in the market for the car, and you buy cars every 50 years and takes you 9 months to buy a car. At that point, when you have that data and that signal, then obviously you want to be able to communicate to them and have a continuous experience across multiple devices until they buy your car versus the competitor's cars.
But doesn't that assume that the marketing campaign's objective is some sort of direct conversion? But a lot of marketing is brand building, right?
It is. Excuse me. I think there's we have a big problem in digital, which is the attribution measures, and I think it actually hurts publishers probably more than anybody. As a group is always looking at attribution, take something crazy like a 401k rollover. When do you roll over your 401k to become an IRA? Well, I mean, that happens over a period of 20 years. You're thinking about that and finally doing it. There's really not an attribution model in the world crediting the advertising for doing that over 20 years. And so what tends to happen is, today's online advertising model is primarily cookie-based, which kind of credits whoever's thrown in the most impressions, closest to the moment in time when the conversion event is measured. And what that does is I think it undervalues a lot of media contacts and engagement points, and it overvalues tonnage at the last second. So I think that's a problem that we as an industry, everyone is sort of waking up to and trying to sort of refactor what the attribution model looks like. The problem is, from the buy side, it's really complex. And we have media mix models, we have econometric analysis. That's the same stuff we've been doing forever. We don't really have bottoms-up ways of reconciling the information in a industry standard way.
But I think you're talking about two different things. I think the question that you asked is, you're essentially, think about how the CMO is approaching it, right? The CMO is spending money and they're asking the question, I want to spend money in order to get consumers to do more of something, whether it's engage or convert, and whether it's today or 20 years from now.
Right.
I think attribution is a marketing manager saying, I have a conversion, I don't want to double pay for it. It's the opposite end of the spectrum from the CMO who's saying, am I changing behavior? Which is where you do get into mixed modeling and test and control.
Let's say changing, the only reason you change behavior is to lead to that conversion. And I think underlying a lot of the conversation is that what data brings is greater relevance. So if your campaign goal is to build brand now and build BMW fans, the younger generation, so they can buy it when they're 35 and have enough money, more data allows you to get that objective or any other objective accomplished more efficiently. So I don't think the two are opposed to each other. Matter of fact, I think the two are highly complementary, and very soon they're almost to the point of being necessary. So I don't think it's an either or at all.
It also comes back to the whole measurement across multiple devices as well. So the ability then to measure that somebody has seen an ad on one device, whether it's an attribution, so it's an actual conversion, or if it's a measurement, like it's a brand lift or brand recall rate or whatever it might be. This ability then to see that somebody has seen an ad on a mobile device and on a tablet, and they actually took an action on a computer. We have some stats for a big electronics company that show that 61% of the ones that were on the mobile device, they actually ended up converting on the mobile device. 39% of the ads that were spent on mobile, they actually ended up converting on a computer. So there's a lot of products in the big advertising categories, finance, electronics, travel, where you will very rarely actually convert on a mobile device. It's too cumbersome. But so what you're seeing from that is that mobile can be much more upper funnel and influence consumers earlier in the buy process, and then get them to other platforms where they are then converting or engaging with the brand or doing something, or walking into a store for that.
So somebody mentioned cookies. Obviously, data-driven sales or data-driven transactions are what we all are involved in. Previous panel, somebody said something I thought was very striking, which was we're just one senator's daughter away from one senator's daughter having a bad experience away from being highly regulated. I'm putting a little bit of words in their mouth, but clearly privacy is a big challenge facing the growth of what we do. How do we manage that? How real is the risk of government intervention undermining the methods of operations today? And what can we do to sort of manage that so that consumers don't, I'd like to call it the ick factor, right? That consumers don't feel as if Big Brother is watching them, that in fact that this is valuable, they're getting valuable marketing information, and the exchange of a little bit of privacy is a fair one for them. So how do we do that? Or is it even possible?
Well, I think it's a big question. It involves industry buy-in, among other things. This is one of the challenges I think we're having in this digital economy, is having the sort of privacy advocates in the industry come to the table together and agree on certain precepts. One of which I was involved in starting the NAI back in '99. And the idea started with, hey, there should be just notice and choice. You know, at the highest level, can we agree on that? And then we can disagree about how we do that. And I think, you know, that we almost sort of need a more structural approach to what can we agree on first. It's not perfect online, but I think in mobile, you know, it's obviously it's a more acute issue, because a lot of people, especially Europeans, are going to associate device ID as personal information out of the gate. And they're going to take a stance, this is really an opt-in medium, which is, of course, the industry's always been trying to avoid that, or to define opt-in so it looks like opt-out. But the worry I have is that, you know, right now you can look through all the traffic and you can connect the dots between devices and even household a bunch of devices down to, you know, 89 Richdale Road. But that's really being done without consumer
By the way,
notice.
that's personally identifiable information and nobody can take that down.
Yeah, so I mean, that's my concern, is that I do think there's a lot of stuff happening in a less obvious way with mobile devices, and, you know, fingerprinting and headers and device IDs, and we have a proliferation of these things. So the concern is that, you know, I think around mobile in particular, a line is crossed where there's less agreement, and then there's a backlash.
Elizabeth, as you do one-to-one conversations with customers or with consumers, are you worried that there's a tipping point where the conversation becomes a little too intimate for a commercial transaction, and they become to be concerned about the amount of information that's going into that commercial conversation?
Yes.
And how do you balance it?
So I think we're getting that from the advertiser side as well. So I think you hear a lot in the news now, or you see the articles that the Wall Street Journal's writing and the New York Times, and they're interviewing customers, and they're saying, oh, it's creepy, I just went to this website and I'm getting a remarketing ad, and it's the shoes I was looking at. And I can imagine that it's even creepier for them when they go to their phone and they see the shoes that they were looking at on their desktop. And so from our side, when advertisers are running cross-device messaging with us, they actually want to pull back, and they're saying, can we do more branding? Can we simply make it homogeneous branding as opposed to something more dynamic?
Okay. Let me pivot us a little bit. So I'm largely in the video business, right? Being a broadcast network, video is our primary product. How much of what you do today is video-based? And how much do you think it'll be video-based, let's say 5 years from now?
For us, we've seen that the video has just gone up in a huge percentage. Now it's probably 20-25% of the inventory is starting to become video. And then you can do some interesting between formats between different devices as well. So you show a branding ad video on a mobile device, for instance, but then you follow up with ads that are from our banners or other types of formats on other devices, right? So you can start not only doing optimization of your media across multiple devices, but you can also start to optimize between the different ad formats. And that's where you can see that you can play with brand and you can play with direct response. We did something very interesting earlier where we put branding ad on TV, on a connected TV, but then follow up with more direct response type ads on other devices. So consumers will actually go and buy it, and so it's 69% lift in all conversions because they actually had that brand message first.
We're seeing a ton of video growth as well. I mean, more so than mobile with brand advertisers. I think mobile's been very popular with cost per install, sort of direct response, money going through channels other than agencies. But the big brand advertisers, 2013 for DataXu was the year of video. It's crazy. One area in particular, there's certain very efficient video channels like cable networks. I mean, it's not that expensive and it's highly effective and it's easy to buy. People talk about that going programmatic. I don't see that happening from the publisher's perspective. They're sold out, a lot of the cable networks. Where we're seeing a lot of interest is actually in the regional and local video advertising, which is expensive from a buyer's perspective and it's hard to manage. And we're actually seeing money start to switch out of TV into online video spots that are essentially the same creative, but run on desktop and tablet. That's been an especially hot area because I just think the advertisers are discovering some great opportunities for better efficiencies, with the local and regional buys.
So I want to pick up on something you said, and either Michael, maybe you want to respond to this. When you say for cable networks they're sold out, that sort of implies that part of the impetus for programmatic sales is that there's liquidity or maybe even a demand constraint against the supply in the marketplace. Do you think that's true? And if so, will that hinder the growth of programmatic sales in the video space?
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look. I mean, the history is as the company's probably been doing this the longest on the panel. This whole thing started with unsold inventory. When PubMatic got into exchanges and Google launched their exchange, it was all class 2 and 3 inventory that was unsold, and the industry has been trying to work it up into the if you want to call it the torso and the tall head of the plan. And obviously that's got to be a win-win for publishers and advertisers. But it has absolutely been about excess supply of digital media. That's what started programmatic. And as you get into the better inventory, the supply-demand balance changes, and it's no longer demand constrained at the top cuts. It's really supply constrained. And so when we talk to publishers, I mean, the case for the highest value inventory to go programmatic is, can you de-average the audience I'm selling as adult, for which I get $6 to actually be female 18 to 34, and I get $8.50. That's the case that makes sense if I'm sold out, and that's why impression level bidding makes sense only there for somebody who's got a supply constraint.
All right, so I want to throw out one last question because we're running towards the close. As a publisher, the thing that keeps me awake at night, and we talked about this a little bit just prior, is what I call the information asymmetry problem, right? That I may be that as a publisher, I would look at myself and say, I'm outside of the demo, and so I'm not particularly valuable. But to an advertiser, they would say, oh, this guy's in market for a car, which I am, and so they're actually very valuable. And so that information asymmetry, to the extent that a buyer knows something about a particular user that a seller doesn't, I think is the thing that keeps me awake at night as I sort of think about what our commitment to this new method of doing business is. How do we resolve that information asymmetry?
I think it's interesting because going back to what Mike was saying a minute ago about being demand constrained, I think as with the rise of programmatic, I think we're quickly shifting into the data constraints more than the supply constraints, because one of the big promises And the great potential sub-programmatic is to be able to engage an audience as opposed to just buying impressions. So you're actually buying people more than just where that impression happened to be. And the value of that engagement is based on a lot of metrics, including where it is, but not solely where it is. So I think with the increase of data becoming available, I actually fully agree with publishers is that it is a big challenge. And just to give a quick for instance, we do all of our buying based on algorithms and programmatically. The publishers that send us the most data on their users get almost, it's almost a direct corollary to the percentage of fill they get. So the more data we get on a user, the better we can predict the value of that impression, the more likely we are to bid. So yes, I think it is a shift in value, but by providing that data, that unlocks value. So I think where publishers can really maintain and protect their position is providing that data, so there is more value to be made.
Okay. I kind of follow up that from a cross-platform perspective as well. I think a lot of
Ari, I know that our time is up. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know that our next people have to get to an important event after us. I want to thank the panel and thank you all.